Have you ever woken up one morning and wondered, how did I get here? Not physically, not geographically, but spiritually. How did I end up so far from the life I once dreamed of? There was a time when you burned with purpose, when your heart beat faster, thinking about the future. But somewhere between deadlines and disappointments, expectations and obligations, that fire dimmed into a quiet, obedient flicker. You stopped asking questions. You started following the script. At first it was subtle. You laughed at things that weren't funny. You said yes when you meant no. You stayed in places that made your soul shrink because it was easier than starting over. You traded the chaos of possibility for the comfort of familiarity. And it worked for a while. Until one morning, maybe this morning, something shifted. The coffee didn't help. The mirror didn't lie. The routine felt heavier. You looked around and realized you were living a life built on silent compromises, not conscious choices. And beneath that silence, a small whisper began to rise. This isn't the life you were meant to live. But what do you do with that truth? How do you undo years of sleepwalking? How do you reclaim something you can't quite name? This video isn't about motivation. It's about confrontation. It's about standing at the edge of the life you've built and finally daring to ask, what if I chose differently from this moment on? Because maybe, just maybe, your second life begins the moment you stop pretending you have time. Most people don't realize they're not truly living until it's far too late. They wake up, go to work, answer emails, make small talk, celebrate birthdays, pay bills. From the outside, everything looks fine, stable, respectable. But underneath the polished surface is a quiet kind of suffocation, the feeling that something essential has been buried alive. The tragedy is that this isn't accidental, it's designed. From an early age, we're taught how to follow rules, not how to listen to our own souls. We're rewarded for fitting in, not for asking why. And so we begin to mistake obedience for virtue, performance for purpose, and productivity for meaning. We inherit someone else's definition of success, and then we spend the next 30 years trying to achieve it, even if it slowly erodes who we are. You weren't born to play a part in someone else's story. But that's exactly what most people end up doing. They shape themselves around expectations, wear smiles, they don't mean pursue goals that feel hollow. And because everyone around them is doing the same, it starts to look normal. It starts to feel like life. But it's not life. It's survival masked as success. It's routine mistaken for peace. And the cost is invisible, but devastating, a slow, silent betrayal of your own soul. This is the illusion that doing what's expected will eventually lead to fulfillment. But the truth is harsher. You can follow every rule, check every box, and still wake up at 40 or 50 feeling like a stranger in your own skin. Because living isn't about performing. It's about presence, about fire, about choosing yourself before the world convinces you to disappear. The longer you wait to see through the illusion, the deeper it owns you. We live as if time is on our side, as if we have unlimited chances to begin. Again, say the things we've buried, chase the dreams we once whispered to ourselves in the dark. But time is not infinite. It doesn't pause for your doubt. It doesn't wait for your confidence to grow. It doesn't care if you're ready. Every second that slips away is a second you will never get back. And the danger is that most people don't feel the urgency until it's far too late, until their life has become a collection of polite regrets, until their passion has been starved into silence, until their reflection becomes unrecognizable. We're taught to delay what matters, to wait for a better time, a perfect circumstance, a sign. We convince ourselves we'll start living after the promotion, after the kids grow up, after retirement. But that after becomes a graveyard for everything real. We treat our dreams like they're recyclable, but they're not. Dreams decay, moments disappear, relationships dissolve. And one day you'll look back and realize you were always one decision away from changing everything, but you kept postponing it. Time doesn't offer do-overs. It offers now. It offers this breath, this heartbeat, this fragile moment in your hands. Most people waste decades preparing to live, never realizing that life doesn't come with a warning shot. No trumpet sounds before it's too late. There is only one clock, and it's ticking inside you. You won't regret your failures. You'll regret the pauses, the hesitations, the days you told yourself maybe later, because later is how dreams die. You were never promised a lifetime. You were only promised this moment, and if you don't use it, no one else will give it back to you. There's a particular kind of panic that doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't come crashing in like a crisis. It creeps in slowly, like a fog settling over your days. You wake up, go through the motions, smile when expected, nod in meetings, laugh at jokes that barely graze your soul, but something inside you is restless. Not loudly, but persistently. You feel it when you're alone, when the screen goes dark, when the applause fades, when the noise dies down and you're left with nothing but the echo of your own silence. That's the quiet panic of an unlived life, the unbearable tension between the person you are and the one you were meant to become. It doesn't matter how successful you look, how well you perform, how carefully you've constructed your identity. If you've spent your life suppressing your real desires just to be accepted, that panic will find you. Because there's only so long you can perform before the performance breaks you. Society teaches us to prioritize image over authenticity, to curate our lives like storefronts, appealing, polished, impressive. But underneath the success, many people feel hollow. They've built a life for the world to admire, but not one their soul can inhabit. And here's the truth: that hollow ache doesn't go away with more achievement. It grows louder with every compromise, with every yes you gave when you wanted to say no, with every dream you tucked away to make others comfortable. It's not depression. It's not failure. It's the grief of a self you've been ignoring, the version of you that's been silently screaming for air. And the longer you ignore that grief, the more it will show up in anxiety and burnout, in regret that arrives too late. You were never truly taught how to live. You were taught how to comply. From the moment you could speak, society handed you a script. Be good, follow the rules, make others comfortable, stay in line. They told you that if you obeyed, if you followed the blueprint, go to school, get the job, buy the house, settle down, you would be rewarded with a good life. But no one warned you what you'd have to trade in return. Wonder was sacrificed for stability, curiosity replaced with caution, passion dulled by practicality. And slowly, without noticing, you began to disappear. The lie wasn't just in the path, it was in the promise. The world promised you meaning if you did what was expected. But the truth is, meaning cannot be inherited. It cannot be found in someone else's footsteps. And no amount of obedience will make up for a life unlived. Most people don't realize they've been sold a lie until it's already cost them their vitality, their uniqueness, their voice. They wear their lives like uniforms, neat, respectable, and utterly hollow. You were not meant to be a replica. You were not meant to inherit someone else's dream. Yet you were trained to please the dead, to follow maps drawn by those who never knew your terrain. You weren't told how to listen to your own longing, how to stand alone, how to say no to a path just because everyone else is walking it. So you obeyed, you adapted, you shrank. And in doing so, you betrayed the most sacred thing you ever had: your truth. But here's the secret they never told you. You can stop following that script. You can burn the map. You can begin again, not as a follower, but as a creator of your own life. Awakening rarely arrives gently. It doesn't knock politely or wait for a convenient time. It crashes into you, sometimes in the middle of an ordinary morning, sometimes in the darkest corner of a sleepless night. It begins with a fracture, a break in the illusion. Maybe it's the death of someone you thought would always be there. Maybe it's betrayal, the kind that cuts deeper than anger and severs your identity from everything you thought was real. Or maybe it's quieter, the moment you look in the mirror and realize you no longer recognize the person staring back at you. Whatever the cause, something cracks open, and once it does, there is no going back. This is the moment you stop pretending. The moment you feel the full weight of a life that doesn't belong to you. And for the first time, you see it clearly. You don't have forever. All you have is now this breath, this moment, this fragile, fleeting chance to live with your whole soul exposed. And in that clarity, something ancient awakens in you. A fire you thought was gone. A hunger that cannot be silenced. A knowing that you were meant for more than survival. The awakening doesn't bring comfort. It brings truth. It strips away your excuses. It dissolves your illusions. It calls you out of hiding. And though it feels terrifying, it's sacred because it offers you a choice. Stay asleep and let the rest of your life be a quiet repetition of what has already died inside you. Or rise. Not in perfection, not in certainty, but in presence, in courage, in raw, real existence. Because once the illusion is broken, pretending becomes unbearable. And that unbearable truth is what finally sets you free. There comes a moment after the illusions fall, after the silence grows too loud to ignore, when you realize the most painful and liberating truth of all: no one is coming to save you. Not your partner, not your parents, not your job, not your friends, not the next book, the next opportunity, or the next version of yourself. You keep waiting for a sign, for the timing to be right, for someone to pull you out of the numbness. But no hand is reaching down. No final warning is being issued. This is it. This is the moment. And if you don't rise now, you'll stay asleep forever. We've been conditioned to believe that life will begin when something external changes, when the chaos calms, when we're more ready, more healed. But the truth is, life doesn't begin with conditions. It begins with conviction. It begins the moment you decide to stop outsourcing your power, the moment you stop apologizing for wanting more, the moment you stop waiting to be chosen, and instead choose yourself fully, ferociously, finally. You realize that failure isn't the enemy, it's stagnation. It's wasting what little time you have left by living for applause that won't matter once you're gone. You start to feel it in your bones, the terrifying beauty of being fully responsible for your existence. And while that truth is heavy, it's also holy. Because once you accept it, you stop asking for permission. You stop looking outward, and you begin to build something inward, something unshakable, something honest, something real. No one is coming to fix the story for you, but that's not tragedy, it's opportunity. Because now you get to become the person you were always waiting for. Your second life doesn't begin when you change cities, switch jobs, or buy something new. It begins the moment you realize you only have one life. And that realization hits so deep, it ruptures the illusion that you've been living on borrowed time. Most people never get there. They sleepwalk through decades believing tomorrow is guaranteed, thinking they'll start truly living after something. But after is a myth. And the second life begins only when you decide that now is all you'll ever have. This isn't about reinvention, it's about resurrection. The second life doesn't ask you to become someone different. It demands you become someone real. The version of yourself that's been buried under years of expectations, people-pleasing, and fear. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. Saying no to everything that shrinks you. Saying yes to what ignites you, even if it terrifies you. It's about reclaiming the sacred ground of your own existence. The second life doesn't erase the pain of the first, it honors it. It thanks it for the lessons. But it doesn't drag the past like a coffin. It lets the dead things bury themselves. Because you can't move forward while still clutching the corpse of who you were. You have to let go of the roles you played, the masks you wore, the dreams that were never truly yours. You have to be willing to burn what's safe in order to uncover what's true. And once you begin your second life, you'll never go back. Not because it's easy, but because it's finally yours. You're no longer surviving for others. You're living for yourself. And that shift, that moment of undeniable truth, is where everything changes. Freedom is a beautiful word until you realize what it actually demands. It doesn't promise comfort. It doesn't guarantee safety. Real freedom requires that you take terrifying responsibility for your own life. And that is precisely why so many people choose comfort instead. They decorate their cages with career titles, social validation, and temporary pleasures, pretending the bars don't exist. They call it success, but inside, something withers. Society makes obedience look noble. It applauds those who follow the rules, meet expectations, blend in quietly. It tells you to be humble, cooperative, agreeable. But here's the cost. Every time you silence your truth to maintain harmony, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you minimize your fire to avoid judgment, you reinforce your own prison. You may not feel the bars, but they are there, built from years of fear, guilt, and unspoken dreams. True freedom is raw. It means speaking when your voice shakes, standing alone when everyone else kneels, saying yes to the path that no one else understands. And that's why it's rare, not because it's inaccessible, but because it's uncomfortable. It isolates you. It strips you of the praise you once depended on. But in that stripping, you find something priceless, your authenticity. You can pretend comfort is enough, but deep down, your soul knows the truth. Comfort numbs. It lulls you to sleep. And while you rest in what's familiar, your life quietly slips away. That's the hidden cost, not pain, but numbness. Not failure, but disconnection. At some point, you must choose a life that looks good to others, or a life that feels true to you. You can stay safe or you can be free, but you cannot be both. Regret doesn't arrive like a storm. It seeps in, slowly, almost quietly, like a chill you can't shake. It's not loud, not dramatic. It's a whisper that finds you at night when everything else goes silent. You could have been more. And no matter how many distractions you throw at it, more work, more noise, more scrolling, it waits. It lingers. Because regret is patient. It doesn't punish you for what you did. It punishes you for what you didn't do. For the dreams you delayed. For the truth you never spoke. For the life you postponed, waiting for a perfect moment that never came. We often imagine death as a single event. But the real death happens gradually every time you say, maybe later. Every time you shrink yourself to be digestible. Every time you betray what you know in your gut to be real. You don't lose your life all at once. You lose it in pieces. And one day you wake up and realize that you're no longer living, you're just managing your existence, hoping it passes painlessly. This is the death Nietzsche warned us about, not the physical end, but the spiritual decay of a life unlived. You see it in people all around you, smiles that don't reach their eyes, laughter that masks exhaustion, lives that are technically full, but emotionally vacant. And that is the fate waiting for those who keep postponing their becoming. You won't regret your failures. You'll regret the moments you let fear write your story. You'll regret the years you spent rehearsing instead of showing up. Because when the end finally comes, and it will come, only one question will matter. Did you live? And if the answer is no, no amount of comfort or success will ever silence the ache of that truth. There comes a moment when you are no longer fighting for success, approval, or validation. You are simply fighting to feel alive. And in that moment, you realize something terrifying. You have to choose. Not in theory, not someday, but right now. You must choose between the familiar comfort of numbness and the radical discomfort of being fully awake. You must choose between shrinking yourself to fit inside a life that doesn't reflect who you are or expanding beyond everything that once kept you safe. And the truth is, choosing life, real life, is one of the bravest things a person can ever do. Because to truly live is to risk everything you built while pretending. It's to lose people you once thought you couldn't breathe without. It's to be misunderstood, ridiculed, doubted. It's to be called selfish, crazy, unrealistic. But you do it anyway. Not because you're fearless, but because you're finally tired of being dead inside. You're tired of asking for permission to be real. You're tired of rehearsing who you think you're supposed to be. You're ready to become someone who doesn't apologize for existing fully. This choice, the decision to live, will demand everything from you. It will break you open. But in that breaking, it will reveal the one thing that's been buried beneath all the noise, the raw, unfiltered, untamed version of you that remembers why you're here. And once you choose life, there's no going back. You stop waiting for signs. You become the sign. You stop chasing approval. You become the truth. And even if no one claps, even if no one follows, even if no one understands, you will know. You will know that you didn't just survive this life, you lived it. You cannot carry the weight of your past into the life you're trying to build. The version of you that survived, that coped, that conformed, that kept quiet to be accepted was necessary. It got you here, but it cannot take you further. That self was built for survival, not expansion. And now, as you step toward the life you were truly meant to live, you must make a decision that feels like mourning to let go. Not out of bitterness, not with resentment, but with reverence for the parts of you that endured, for the roles you played, for the masks you wore just to feel safe. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means honoring what once served you, then releasing it with love. Because the truth is, you can't create a new life while dragging your own coffin behind you. You can't walk into freedom with your hands full of ghosts. You have to bury the stories that no longer serve you, the identity rooted in pain, the relationships that kept you small, the voices in your head that told you to sit down, be quiet, play nice. That version of you was not wrong, it was just temporary. A chapter, not the whole book. You will grieve as you let go. That's natural. You'll feel fear, guilt, even nostalgia. But none of that is a reason to stay stuck. Growth hurts, healing hurts. But the pain of letting go is nothing compared to the agony of staying where you no longer belong. You weren't born to live in emotional ruins. You were born to rise from them. This is the final gift your past gives you, the clarity that it is over. And in its place, space opens. Space for truth. Space for breath. Space for the life you've been too afraid to claim until now. The most dangerous lie you've been told is that you have time, that there will always be another day to begin again, another year to change, another lifetime to live the one you actually want. But time doesn't bargain. It doesn't pause for clarity or confidence. It moves without apology whether you're ready or not. And every second you spend waiting for the fear to pass, for the pain to heal, for the perfect moment to appear, is a second you never get back. You're not running out of options, you're running out of time. We imagine our lives as if they're rehearsals, as if we can practice forever and step into the real thing someday. But there is no dress rehearsal. This is the performance. And it's happening right now, while you scroll, while you hesitate, while you silence the part of you that's begging to be seen, heard, and freed. You don't realize how fast it's going, not until years blur past you in a fog of autopilot. Birthdays blend. Opportunities dissolve. The someday you kept clinging to turns into never. You think you're afraid of failure, But what you're really afraid of is showing up and being seen, because deep down, you know what's at stake. If you step into the life you truly want, you risk everything comfortable. You risk being misunderstood, judged alone. But if you don't, you risk something even greater, becoming the ghost of the person you were meant to be. There will never be a perfect time. There will never be certainty. But there will always be this moment, and this moment is enough. Because the clock isn't just ticking on your dreams, it's ticking on your soul. And one day, sooner than you think, the only question left will be, did you really live while you were here? At some point, the noise fades, the distractions lose their grip, the excuses wear thin. And all that remains is the question, one that is as brutal as it is beautiful. Will you choose to live, or will you keep pretending you have time? That is the final decision. Not one made by accident or by circumstance, but consciously, with both eyes open, with trembling hands, and a soul that finally refuses to stay asleep. Choosing to live isn't a metaphor, it's a revolution. It's the moment you decide to stop performing a life for others and start becoming the person you were always meant to be, raw, real, and relentlessly honest. This choice is not comfortable. It will cost you things, relationships built on silence, careers that fed your ego but starved your spirit approval that once felt like oxygen. You will lose what is false, but you will gain what is real. You will gain yourself, not a polished version, not the version that always gets it right, but the version that burns with truth even when no one claps, even when everyone leaves. That's the price of authenticity, but it's also the reward. You are not waiting for a perfect moment. You are avoiding a real one. And the longer you wait, the more your soul begins to ache in ways no achievement can soothe. The life you want isn't out there waiting for the right timing. It's already inside you waiting for permission. But no one can give you that, only you can. And the longer you hesitate, the louder the ghost of your unlived life will haunt you. You will feel fear. You will feel doubt. But choose life anyway. Because the tragedy isn't death, it's never having truly lived at all. The most profound lesson in this message is simple but life-altering. You only get one life, and it's happening right now. Not tomorrow. Not after the promotion. Not once the fear goes away. Every second spent in hesitation, self-betrayal, or survival mode is a second stolen from the life you were meant to live. And while the world may applaud your ability to adapt, fit in, or stay safe, your soul will never celebrate that kind of sacrifice. This is your invitation to stop waiting, stop performing, stop building a life that looks good on paper but feels empty in your chest. Instead, start choosing what's real, the relationships that nourish you, the work that excites you, the risks that make your heart race, the quiet, terrifying decision to finally be yourself even if no one approves. Because comfort may feel safe, but it doesn't lead to freedom. And survival may keep you alive, but it won't make you feel alive. What will is the courage to start over, to say yes to the one thing that's been whispering inside you all along: this life is yours. Don't wait for a sign. Be the sign. And start living like your time actually matters.